So I want to pose a question to you. Are we now, at this time in 2021, experiencing another back to the land movement? So those of you familiar, back in the 60s and 70s, there was this big movement called Back to the Land movement, where people were rejecting this urban lifestyle and really kind of rejecting culture in general, the rat race, if you will, just getting away from all that. And this actually culminated into enough people, enough of a demographic moving that it was measurable. It was a tangible, trackable thing, that there was enough people that decided, hey, we're rejecting that lifestyle, we're going back to the land and embracing more historical, more foundational lifestyles that our country was founded on. So of course that lifestyle required them to learn how to garden, how to raise livestock, how to prepare their own food, how to store their own food, how to build maybe their houses or additional infrastructure they needed on their farms, and basically just how to do a lot themselves, be more self-reliant. Now, to be fair, I think every generation has that percentage of people that kind of want to shun the norm. That if culture says you got to do this, you got to have this type of house, this type of car, this type of job, this type of beautiful spouse, all those type of things. I think there's a percentage of people that reject that and just say, well, I'm going against the flow, I'm going to do this. Every generation has that. But why in the 60s and 70s was there such a tangible spike, such a tangible increase, a trackable amount of people that rejected that and decided to take on that simpler lifestyle? Well, I don't want to bog too much down into a history lesson, but I think it's interesting to look at some key points that motivated the Back to the Land movement in the 60s and 70s and see how that parallels with us today. So what happened after World War II? Well, my grandfather was a World War II veteran. So he did like almost everybody did after World War II, came back, got married, started having babies, and the economy flourished, the population flourished, everything just boomed. That's why my parents are considered baby boomers. They were born in that explosion of births that happened after World War II. So with that greatest generation coming back and flourishing, the economy boomed, businesses were built, the sky's the limit. The American dream was just right there at your fingertips. You could have everything you wanted if you just went out and earned it. However, in the late 60s and early 70s, there were quite a few incidents, and I'm going to look at this from a North American standpoint. There's quite a few national incidents that happened that revealed some chinks in the armor of that lifestyle. The first one that jumps out to me, of course, is the Vietnam War. So here's a war from the perspective of those individuals at the time that seemed to be A, an immoral war for a lot of people, B, it seemed to be unnecessary. It was taking place on the other side of the world in a country that not too many people even knew where it was. And C, it seemed like, why is America getting involved in that? Why are we losing our young men? Why are they dying? They're being injured, having all this stress coming from that. What does America have to gain? The second catalyst I think that popped up was political scandals, and that kind of culminated and peaked with Watergate. So with Watergate, we got an inside look at just how corrupt a political system could become, and kind of peeled back the top layer on that onion to reveal some of the rot that's involved in our political system. The pervasive attitude at that time as well for culture was this blatant consumerism that, again, with a booming economy, it was all about consume and buy and upgrade. So if you didn't have something, you got to have the latest gadget. Everything from kitchen appliances to the latest in automobiles. Now throw into that in the 70s the energy embargo that hit and just really crippled the economy, really kind of kicked everything into neutral there. They got people thinking, oh, wait a minute, this economy's not as rock solid and bulletproof as we thought it was. There are clearly chinks in the armor here that we need to look at and fully understand why we're going through this energy crisis. In fact, it was such a big deal, our U.S. government formed the Department of Energy with its singular focus to tear down the energy embargo and then make the United States more energy independent. That was 50 years ago. So remember when I mentioned World War II, one of the other ramifications of that was more of a social ramification. We got to see close up and in really good detail what a perverse notion of advanced culture, of advanced science, advanced evolution brought about with the whole Aryan ideal. And it wasn't pretty. And I think a lot of people rejected to say, ooh, this is what happens when culture moves too quickly and advances too rapidly. So all of these issues, all of these conditions, and a whole bunch more that I didn't enumerate, cause people to stop and think, wait a minute, why are we doing this? Why are we chasing after all of these things? Is this really what's best for our culture, for our planet, for our kids, for our next generation? Does this make sense? So what we saw in the 60s and 70s was an influx of people getting rid of all of these consumeristic notions, selling land or selling property in towns, getting out of their businesses, moving rurally, and starting over with some very basic notions. I do remember as a kid there was a what we would call a hippie group, and they had a group of hippies called the Booger Hole Revival. And it was very interesting. A lot of hippies playing old gospel music, and I can remember that vividly as a kid. Just blew me away. So if you even look at the state of Maine back in the 60s and 70s, the Back to the Land movement had a profound effect on that state. And I know some of you all that watch are from Maine or used to live in Maine, and you could probably give some additional insight. But it really changed the entire structure and culture of Maine because there was such an influx of people coming back to more traditional standards. So where are we now? Why am I even standing out here by the pigs and the chickens talking to you all on camera and not getting projects done? Well, I think we're in a position to look and say, are we seeing a resurgence of the same movement? And do we have the same catalysts in place? And I would argue that we do, and that this could be another pivotal point for the culture of the United States. Have we experienced in the last 20 years a war we feel would be unnecessary and maybe not had the results that we wanted, that polarized our culture? Are we a society that really embraces blatant consumerism? Have we experienced any economic crises in the last 20 years? Yeah, 2008 was a kick in the pants. Now throw on top of that a global pandemic and this increase, what seems to be an increase in natural disasters that our country is experiencing. All of these things rolled together now may be a catalyst for why we're seeing a back to the land movement, or what we now call modern homesteading, really gaining traction and really taking off. So is modern homesteading just a cheap knockoff of the back to the land movement? Well, I would say it's basically a rebrand. I don't know that you could say it's a cheap knockoff, but I think it's a genuine movement that a lot of us are trying to embrace. There's definitely different definitions of what you would call modern homesteading and how you would compare that to the back to the land movement. But I say absolutely. And the neat thing about this next wave is we have technology at our disposal. So again, I'm standing here out in the middle of my chicken pasture with a very compact camera that's recording my voice, doing some great visuals here. And in less than 5 minutes, I could be up at my house broadcasting this out across the world for anybody who's interested to watch. So technology has made an incredible opportunity for us in this genre. Think about if the Back to the Land movement had this type of technology to be able to disseminate this much information to people interested. I think that movement could have gone even further. So I think that's one of the great benefits of where we are now with modern homesteading. We all can share. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of channels out there that provide useful information on how to do things that would fit into the category of modern homesteading. Everything from raising pigs, to chickens, to building projects, to building your own house, building a self-reliant house, living totally off-grid, all of those things that interest us today. I think it's a beautiful irony that we can use the most advanced technology to disseminate all this information on traditional lifestyle living and how to live a simpler life. And I think today, as a result of that, and the fact that more and more people are seeing that we cannot rely on culture as a whole and government as a whole to keep things all rainbows and unicorns in our daily lives. And it's giving people a lot of opportunity to take a step back and think about, is this something I want to participate in, or do I need to make a change to be a little bit more self-reliant and more independent? So here's a parting note or a parting comment I want to make about all this, and it has to do with recent current affairs. So just recently, we had Hurricane Ida hit the United States. It made landfall in Louisiana, if you all recall. It should be fresh in everybody's mind. And it did a considerable amount of damage in Louisiana. People that are used to hurricanes still got caught off guard, still lost a lot of property. There's a loss of life, a lot of damage there. But when it hit the northeast area, when you got to New Jersey and Pennsylvania and New York and those areas, they just got absolutely hammered. But the one thing that really jumped out during that time was my wife and I were sitting watching the news one evening, and it was this lady. She just broke my heart to see this lady on camera. Nerves were real raw because she just lost everything. And it had been a couple days since the storm had come through. And she's in tears, and she's saying, nobody has come to help. Where is the government? Where is, the state government, the county government, the federal government? They're not coming to help me. I have nothing. I don't know what to do. I need somebody to do this for me, fix this for me, or help me get on with my life. It was tough to watch her realize on camera that she had no backup. She had no other resources there to help her out and was in true despair. And that's just heartbreaking. So I know what most of you are saying. Troy, it's impossible for us to have contingencies for every possible emergency situation that could happen. To that I say, yeah, you're right. You drive yourself crazy trying to go through all these processes and figure out exactly what's the best solution to get around them. But I think we owe it to ourselves and our neighbors to recognize that we cannot rely on this larger culture, this larger government entity, to be able to save us, to be our savior in time of emergency. I believe now more than ever we need to take a look at our own self-reliance, our own responsibilities, and our immediate neighbors around us. If there can be a cooperative agreement established with your neighbors that when that natural disaster happens, when that economic crisis hits, when the whole neighborhood's affected, then there's at least a plan where you can come together on a local level and affect positive change for one another. If you're self-reliant, if you're able to take care of yourself, maybe there's more that you can share to help take care of others around you. Now, I personally have a blessed hope that goes well beyond anything this world can throw at me and my family, so don't think I'm all doom and gloom. But my faith and how I live that out practically encourages me to be more prepared to not only care for my family, but also for those around me that I love and interact with on a daily basis. All I'm simply asking is for you all to consider doing the same. If we can help better prepare ourselves, that we can then be in a position to help others. I think that's what's going to make this modern homesteading movement even more potent than the Back to the Land movement of the 60s and 70s. All right, well, I'd love to know your all's input. Definitely a different style of video we do here. We'll definitely get back to building things. We've got big projects coming up that we're going to start. We're going to continue, obviously, with our chickens and pigs and all the things that go along with raising them on pasture and being more self-reliant here in central West Virginia. So if you're new to the channel, think about checking us out. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe if you want. We do 2 videos a week detailing all this type of stuff and showing real boots on the ground to how we work our 100 acres here in West Virginia. Comment below and let me know your thoughts on this and give some input. I'd like to get some good discussion going in the comment section. All right, take care, everybody.